All right, everybody, welcome back to another deep dive. Today we're looking at something pretty serious.
Yeah, it is a serious one.
It's Russia's new nuclear doctrine.
Right.
And we've got some really interesting information, some direct quotes actually from the Kremlin, from Dmitry Peskov. That really gives some insight into how Russia is viewing this whole situation with Ukraine and the potential for nuclear war.
Well, it's not just about Ukraine, though, right? I mean,
this
is about any potential adversary.
Right.
They've made that very clear.
It's a roadmap.
Yeah.
It's a potential roadmap to global conflict.
Yeah, and it's a big departure from how they've messaged things in the past.
Right.
So yeah, I mean,
let's break down. What does it mean?
Let's do it.
What does it mean for everybody you know?
Yeah.
What does it mean for me and you?
Yeah. I think the first thing that really jumps out at you is that it's incredibly clear. This doctrine it goes beyond just saying we will retaliate if attacked.
Right.
It very much emphasizes deterrence by making sure that any potential adversary understands that a response is inevitable.
Right.
It's inevitable if Russia or its allies are attacked.
And it couldn't come at a more tense time either.
Right. Absolutely not. I mean,
because there's been some chatter even that President Biden might give Ukraine the green light to use those long-range weapons.
Right.
That they've been supplied by the U.S.
Right.
4 strikes deep inside Russia.
Yeah.
You know, the kind of move that could really kind of up the ante.
That's a game changer.
Yeah. So what's Putin's stance on that?
Well, Putin has been crystal clear
Yeah.
that he sees an attack like that as a declaration of war by NATO.
Okay.
Not by Ukraine. By NATO itself.
So it's NATO versus Russia.
That's how he sees it.
Yeah.
And it brings up a point that I think is often overlooked, which is the distinction between direct deterrence and extended deterrence.
Oh, okay.
So, direct deterrence is about protecting your own territory.
Okay.
But extended deterrence is about protecting your allies.
Gotcha.
And this doctrine is very much focused on
extended deterrence. Extended deterrence.
So that really widens the scope of potential conflict.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Significantly.
Okay, so this is where Peskov's comments get really interesting.
Right.
Because when he was asked if deploying U.S. missiles to Ukraine would be a red line, for Russia, would that trigger a nuclear response? He didn't really give a straight answer.
Right.
He was very vague.
Yeah.
Instead, he pointed to a very specific clause in the doctrine that defines an attack by a non-nuclear power, but backed by a nuclear power as a joint attack.
Exactly.
So basically, even if Ukraine pulls a trigger, it's seen as a NATO attack if they're using U.S. weapons.
If it's a U.S. weapon.
Right.
I mean, how do you interpret that? I mean...
Well, I think it's deliberate. It's a calculated ambiguity, and it creates a situation that's ripe for miscalculation.
And ripe for disaster.
Imagine this. Ukraine, emboldened by these new weapons, maybe feeling the pressure to show some progress, launches a long-range strike. Russia sees this as a NATO-backed attack and feels compelled to respond, potentially escalating the conflict to unimaginable levels.
Yeah, that's scary.
It's a terrifying scenario.
And speaking of Ukraine's potential actions,
yeah,
they have this proposed victory plan.
Yeah.
And it just seems to be throwing fuel on the fire. From what we've gathered, Zelensky is calling for unrestricted attacks using Western weapons, the creation of a conventional deterrence package, and even asking the U.S. to station Tomahawk cruise missiles on Ukrainian soil. He's even hinted at using those against Russia.
So to understand the potential consequences of that, we need to unpack what a conventional deterrence package actually means.
Okay.
And it likely refers to building up Ukraine's capacity to defend itself with non-nuclear weapons.
No conventional weapon.
Right, creating a credible threat of conventional retaliation.
Okay.
But the problem is, in the context of this doctrine, even conventional weapons provided by NATO could be seen as crossing a red line.
Right, because that would be
it could be
extended deterrence.
Exactly.
It would be seen as NATO participating in the attack.
A joint attack.
Okay.
Yeah.
And these red lines are pretty worrying. Peskov made it clear that Russia reserves the right to use nuclear weapons if there is any attack on the sovereignty and territorial integrity of Russia or its allies.
Those are very broad terms.
Right, yeah. I was going to say, what exactly constitutes an attack on sovereignty?
That's exactly the danger here. I mean, those red lines, they're very much open to interpretation. And that creates a minefield of potential misunderstandings. For example, a cyber attack. That cripples critical infrastructure, even if it was launched by a non-state actor. Could be perceived by Russia as an attack on its sovereignty.
Okay.
And if that cyber attack can be traced back to NATO support, well,
That could be it.
that could be enough to trigger a catastrophic response.
Right. So we're really seeing this perfect storm here of ambiguity and potential miscalculation.
Yeah.
You know, Russia's new nuclear doctrine is significantly expanding the circumstances under which they might use nuclear weapons, and the actions of Ukraine and its allies could very easily be misconstrued as crossing those red lines.
It's a very dangerous situation.
Yeah, so I mean, that brings us to a critical question for everybody listening. Given this volatile situation, what steps can be taken
Yeah, what steps?
to reduce the risk of miscalculation and prevent this conflict from escalating into a full-blown nuclear war?
Because ultimately, this isn't just about geopolitics. This is about the survival of humanity.
That's a question that we all need to be grappling with. The stakes couldn't be higher. And we encourage you to keep digging into this issue and thinking about what it means for you, for your future, for the future of the world.
For all of us.
Thanks for joining us for another deep dive.
Appreciate it.
We'll see you next time.
See you later.